All right, welcome everyone. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a good weekend. Today we're going to be talking about text editors. Before I do that though, I just want to remind you that you have your first homework assignment due on Wednesday. We talked about that in class last time. It's the first assignment, so it's not particularly challenging. At least I hope not, but if it is challenging, if you get stuck, please let me know. Please talk to me after class or set up an appointment with me. I got plenty of time to meet with you tomorrow if you are stuck on, especially on the first part of the homework assignment. I'd be happy to meet with you and talk to you about that. We do have 2 TAs for this class, and I am in the process of getting their office hours set up. I'm just not quite there yet, so I'm hoping that on Wednesday I'll be able to finally announce when the TA office hours are for this class, which is good timing because the next assignments will be more difficult than this one. They're going to definitely step up a notch. So I want to make sure you have that help provided. Does anybody have any questions about the homework assignment right now before I hop into our topic for the day today? All good? Awesome. Glad to hear it. Let's chat about text editors. So I'm going to be teaching you how to use a text editor today, which might seem a little silly. A lot of you have probably already interacted with text editors. And to be clear, what we're talking about is a certain category of tool, right? So I'm not talking about Microsoft Word. That's a word processor. I'm not talking about Eclipse or IntelliJ or tools like that. Those are integrated development environments, IDEs, which are used for writing code, programming, things like that. What I'm talking about is strictly a text editor. Quite literally, all it can do is edit text. It's not going to run code for you. It's not going to make the text look nice, right? Usually not things that text editors care about. They want to allow you to manipulate the text. So the examples that you've likely run into, if you're on a Windows machine, you've probably seen WordPad or Notepad. The one on Mac is called TextEdit, I think. I don't have a Mac, so I'm a little more unfamiliar with the Mac OS X offerings than I am the Windows offerings. But all computers have text editors on them. Note that even the IDEs that I mentioned, like Eclipse and IntelliJ, you could argue that just the part that lets you write the code is a text editor, right? Yes, it has lots of extra stuff that it adds above and beyond the text editor, but the part that lets you edit code by itself is a text editor. And the one I'm going to show you today is actually none of those things. I'm going to show you a text editor today called Vim, which is one of the oldest text editors to exist. It's actually a command line based text editor, so that kind of fits with the theme of the class. But also consider what you might want to use this for, right? Why do we need to learn how to use a command line text editor if I already know how to use Eclipse and Notepad and all those fun things? Consider, as we talked about last time, that a lot of times we're going to be executing commands, doing things on computers that are not our computer, but they're a different computer halfway across the country or halfway across the world, right? Does that computer have Notepad on there? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I may not be able to interact with it in that way, even if it does. I may just only be able to interact with it via the command line. So having knowledge of a command line text editor, having a way to manipulate the contents of files via the command line is a very, very, very important skill. And there are lots of different text editors out there. I'm choosing Vim just because it's the one that I personally know the best, but also it is very well known, very widely used, even to this day, despite how old it is. But there are others. So if you are familiar with command line editors such as Emacs or Nano or other popular ones that exist these days, those are great. And I don't have anything against them. There definitely are people who feel very strongly about their text editors and will strongly prefer one over the other. But honestly, what I care about the most is that you just know how to use one of them. So if you're already a Nano whiz, like that's fine. I don't necessarily think you need to learn how to use Vim just because that's what I'm covering in this class. I'm assuming that a lot of you have never used any of them, so I'm just picking one and using it as a basis for all text editors. So Vim, just to give you a little history, It only exists on the command line, does not exist anywhere else. I use it all the time. Vim is great for making quick little edits. Do I use command line text editors to write whole programs with hundreds, thousands of lines of code? No, I don't. There probably are some people that do, but I think most people would prefer to, use Eclipse or VS Code or something else to do things like that. I use it for quick edits, very quick, small little edits where I don't need to load Eclipse takes a long time to load up and get everything situated, right? I don't need to necessarily go through all that. I can just do it very quickly and easily on the command line, get it done. That being said, Vim is powerful. Vim can do a lot. I'm going to just barely scratch the surface of what Vim can do today. If you go look online, you can see that Vim is capable of doing lots of things. Actually, you can use Vim almost as a programming language of sorts. I'm not going to do that. That's like kind of on the extreme edges of what you can do with it. We're going to focus on its main, basic task, which is text editing. And so in order to get that job done, I've got a lot of text files that I'm going to be manipulating. Some of these are exercises I'm going to ask you to manipulate a little bit later on. But the first thing that I'm going to do is grab a copy of this file right here, which is Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland. I just needed some text that I could manipulate. This is in the public domain, right? It's very old text. So it's not copyrighted or anything like that anymore. I can freely use it without any repercussions. So I want to get a copy of this on my machine that I can use to manipulate in a text editor. And we had this conversation last time. I showed you a command called wget, and then all the Mac users told me that that command didn't exist on Macs. And so I did a little bit of research and found some information for you Mac users out there. There's actually another command that you can use as sort of a substitute for wget. In fact, somebody was just talking to me about it a little bit before class. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use wget or the alternative to grab a copy of that Alice in Wonderland text. I'm actually going to make a directory first just for all of today's stuff. I'll call it Vim. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to do this just to kind of help keep things organized. So I just made a brand new folder called Vim that I'm going to use to do all of the exercises and such for today. And now on my machine, I can use wget to grab this file, and we just paste the address afterwards, like so. I know that this doesn't work on everybody's machines, however. So the other command that I have been told, and I'm interested to see if it works, is called curl. Specifically, using the -O flag makes it work much similar to how wget works. So I'm curious to, if wget didn't work for you all in the past, if using curl-O is sort of a way to get around that missing command that you have. Has anybody had the opportunity to try that and see if it looked like it worked on my computer? Anybody else have an opportunity to try it and see if it was able to work on your Macs, or if you weren't able to get wget working before? You can also too, of course, I don't want to make it sound like you have to do it that way. If you feel better just right-clicking and saving this file as, the appropriate location on your computer, that's also an option, as long as you know how to navigate to, where you save it on the command line. That's kind of the important thing. We all good? Any questions? Any stuck? Okay. So now that we have this copy of Alice in Wonderland to manipulate, there's my copy right there. I can see it with ls. I want to open this up and start doing some stuff with it in the text editor. The text editor that we're using is called Vim. So to start it, I'm going to type the word Vim, and then I'm going to follow that with the name of the thing that I want to open, which is called alice.txt. And when you do that, whoop, I don't know why it put me all the way at the end of the file, but for some reason it did. Let's see if I can get it to go. Uh-oh. Why did it put me all the way at the end instead of the beginning? Anyway, sorry, I'm trying to figure out if I can... Oh, there it is. Yeah, I got it. Cool. Got it all the way back up to the top. Awesome. So yeah, here we are in the file. And you'll notice that if I use the arrow keys, that actually is one way that we can use to navigate around. But perhaps surprisingly or a little bit unintuitively, there are other keys that can be used to navigate around as well. The H, J, K, and L keys are also used to navigate around. So J and K move you up and down, and H and L move you left and right, which probably feels pretty weird, right? It's kind of unusual. It's kind of an old, archaic way of moving around, but just goes to show that we're entering sort of different territory now, right? We're doing something that's a little bit different. Navigating the file using these keys actually can save you some time because the arrow keys are usually off to the side. So if you get used to navigation with HJKL, I mean, that's the pro Vim users, that's what they do. They prefer to navigate using those as opposed to the arrow keys for the same reason that I kind of mentioned before. The more I can keep my hands on the main part of the keyboard, the faster, more efficient I'm going to be. Now that being said, I use the arrow keys. I'm not, like, I wouldn't claim to be a pro on that level, but it's definitely something that I'm aware of, something that I do use from time to time. I think some keys that are perhaps more interesting, more useful. So my cursor right now is on this word "so" right here. If I hit the W key, notice where the cursor moves. So the W for word is quite literally making the cursor move from word to word, one word at a time. It's always going to the beginning of the next word. And it's kind of okay at picking out when the next word starts, but you can tell that punctuation does sort of trip it up a little bit sometimes. What about going backwards? If I want to go to the previous word, I can use the B key. So now I'm hitting the B key to move backwards. And actually, there's one more worth mentioning, which is called the E key, which is similar to the W key, except instead of moving you to the beginning of the next word, it moves you to the end of the next word. Now these keys are great. I actually love using W, E, and B to navigate around because the arrow keys just take longer. The arrow keys are going to visit every single character. Here we're doing text, but consider if we were doing code, right? Using W, E, and B to navigate around chunks of code can be very quick. A lot faster than using the arrow keys to try and navigate around your document. And I'm going to show you some additional stuff that we can use in addition to these things to kind of make it even more powerful still. But everything we've done so far is just moving around. We haven't actually edited any text yet, right? We haven't changed anything, haven't manipulated anything. And that's because we were in the normal mode. So when you're in the normal mode, you can use the keys to move around, H, J, K, and L like I talked about, W, E, and B like I talked about. But what if I want to type stuff in? What if I actually want to type the letter H into something? Well, we have to enter insert mode. And the way that we enter insert mode is by hitting the I key. You'll notice that after you hit the I key, the word insert shows up right down there at the bottom to indicate that we are now in insert mode. So now if I type the letter W, it's not going to move me to the next word. It's going to type the letter W, right? So, wherever you are, you can now, I'm trying to type W-E-B, but it's not doing it anymore. It's actually putting in the letters, right? Because I'm in insert mode. If I want to go back to normal mode, where I was before, from insert mode, then you're going to hit the escape key to go back to normal mode. And now, if I hit W-E-B again, it doesn't insert them into the files. I'm now moving from word to word like I was before. So those are the two modes that Vim has. Normal mode, which is where we enter commands, and then insert mode, which is where we actually insert text, manipulate the text however we want to. We can delete text in insert mode as well, even though it seems a little misleading, right? I can delete text as well. So all of that is totally fair game. The interesting thing is that we can actually do a lot of stuff without even going into insert mode. So these commands are actually very, 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 very powerful. For example, if I want to delete stuff from insert mode, I can. My cursor is, here on chapter 1, and if I start hitting the X key, notice that I don't even have to go into insert mode to delete stuff. I can just use the X key and it starts deleting whatever's at my cursor. Again, this is faster. If you can learn how to use these things this way, it's actually a lot faster. It's just less intuitive, right? We're all used to slamming that backspace key whenever we want to delete something. We're not used to doing things this way. So the learning curve for Vim is steep, but the payoff for that learning curve is extreme efficiency. If that's what you're going for, that's what you're into. Let me see if there's anything else I need to show you. Oh yeah, awesome. So the other things that are worth knowing about is how do I get out of this thing? Actually, Stack Overflow, which is basically a coder's website where you can go ask questions about whatever you want. The most popular question on Stack Overflow is, how do I exit Vim? How do I get out of here? There's no X in the corner to click, right? I can't go to File, Quit. I'm in the command line, so how the heck do I do this? First thing is make sure you're in normal mode. So if you're in insert mode, you can't exit Vim at all. It's not possible. You have to get out of insert mode. So if you're in insert mode, hit the escape key. Make sure you're out of insert mode. In order to exit Vim from normal mode, I'm first going to type a colon, and you'll see that colon shows up down at the bottom of the screen there. And you've got a couple of options from here. I can type WQ. So the Q stands for pretty much what you think it stands for. It stands for quit. The W stands for write. So this is going to save, write, and quit. This will save the changes that I made and quit. Take me back to the command line. So here we are, right? Or I want to show you another way that I commonly use to exit as well. Let's say I came in here and entered in a bunch of gibberish and did a bunch of work or whatever, and then later on I'm like, oh, actually, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I didn't want all that stuff to be there. Okay. From normal mode, I can type colon. If I do just Q by itself, it's going to get upset with me. It's going to be like, hey, you changed stuff, but you haven't saved it. So I'm not going to let you quit until you tell me whether you want to keep this stuff or not. But if you type Q exclamation point, that's you saying, no, quit, darn it. And it will not save your work. It'll toss everything you've changed since you opened the file and quit you out anyway, so that the next time you open, you'll see that all that gibberish that I typed is gone. It did not save it. So colon WQ is the command that I use to save the changes that I made and quit. Colon Q exclamation point is the command that I use to exit Vim without saving the changes, without remembering any changes that I've made. All right. Everybody with me so far? We're at the point where I want to turn you loose on some exercises. So in order to do that, I've made some files for you to manipulate. Look at me struggling to get out of here. Q exclamation point. All right, I made some files for you to manipulate there. Like Alice in Wonderland, they are on Canvas. So just like last time, go to the calendar and the file for exercise 1, you need to grab a copy of this on your machine. So using wget or curl-o, go ahead and grab a copy of that file, and then I will print out what the instructions are once I find them on my machine. Okay, yeah, perfect. So I asked you to download this file. They're numbered. 1, 2, and 3, right? Whoops. That one's already complete from the last time I did this class, though. The file that I asked you to download is this one, and the instructions that I want you to perform on that file using Vim are here, up on the screen now. Let me know if you have trouble getting the text file on your machine, but once you do, go ahead and run through these exercises. Talk to your neighbors if you need to. You don't have to do this by yourself. You can definitely chat to a friend, work through this side by side if you need to. I'm going to walk around, give you a few minutes to work on these for yourself, and then let me know if you have any questions, okay? Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I usually just hit edit and you hit it's saying that there were like two. I don't know if you had two. Or did you open it in another text editor or something? I'm not sure. I don't know. I've seen this before plenty of times, and you can always just hit E to edit anyway, and I've never run into any problems. The swap file gets created when program makes changes, and it's just like a temporary stash. So it's saying that it looks like some changes were made, but never actually saved. You can just delete that swap file and I'll make the message go away. Okay, but not something. It's not. Okay, perfect. right, let's chat about these. For the first one, you don't even need to go into insert mode. So I know it's tempting to go into insert mode because that feels kind of the most familiar to what we're used to, right? But you know, I hope that you take advantage of the times when you don't need to do that, especially like this one. If I just use, in fact, I'm not even using the arrow keys right now. I'm forcing myself to use, you know, H and L to navigate around, or even the W key to navigate around and delete these extra letters that exist. So no need to enter into insert mode at all. Just a combination of navigation with the X key can help you. Whoops, I missed one back here. Now if you entered insert mode and did it that way, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I honestly probably done similar in similar situations before, right? But the only way you get to learn how to do these things is to force yourself to use them even when it feels slower, because it isn't going to feel slower at first. That's the learning curve. But once you get better at it, it definitely will be faster in the long run. For this one, for number 2, it did ask you to use insert mode, so we wanted you to use insert mode to make it match the same on the top as it did on the bottom. So hopefully that wasn't too bad. One thing that you can do, which is not necessarily a bad thing, is, you know, kind of exit insert mode so that I can hit the E key, for example, and jump to the end of the next word before re-entering insert mode to tack the S on the end. Or you can just stay in insert mode the whole time and use the arrow keys, right? That's also an option. But again, there are many different ways to get the job done. And oops. Especially when you're learning, it can be more interesting to try and force yourself to learn how to use some of the different types of commands that you're not used to. Oh, I missed a word. There we go. Something like that. And then for this last one, I actually think I forgot to tell you how to do the append command. I saw some of you Googling it, which is great. That made me actually so happy, because that's programming. That's you know, one of those signs of a good programmer that we talked about on the first day of class, right? Maybe I don't know how to do something, but I know how to figure it out. I love seeing that. My bad, totally, for telling you to use an append command. It's in my notes. I just accidentally skipped it. But to kind of go back to double back and tell you about it, if you hit the A, it takes you immediately to the end of the line. So capital A actually is what I typed. So Shift A. It doesn't work with lowercase a. It has to be from normal mode. If you hit Shift A, it'll take you to the end of the line and put you in insert mode. That's the append command. So my bad for not telling you that, but kudos to you if you Googled it and figured it out anyway. Love seeing that. That is a very convenient one to know how to do. Finally, the last part of the exercise is to save your work, right, and make sure that it got saved properly. So hitting escape to get out of the insert mode, :WQ for write quit. And then just to double check, you can either enter back in, or you could just use the cat command if you wanted to print out the contents of that file, just to make sure that the changes that you made to it actually did get saved to the file. Were there any questions about this exercise before I move on to some new stuff? Okay, awesome. I'm going to hop back into Alice in Wonderland then and show you some new things that we can do with Vim. Starting with, all right, so I've already shown you how to use W, E, and B. Those are actually called motions because they move us around, right? So W, E, and B are examples of motions. But there's another category of things we can use within Vim called operators. So the first operator, and probably one of the more common ones that I'm going to use, is the delete operator, which is the D key And the nice thing about the operators is that they can be combined with motions to be more specific about how you want these operators to run. So if you hit the D key by itself, I'll put the cursor right here on the author line, where it says author Lewis Carroll. If I hit the D key by itself, you'll notice that actually nothing happens right away. The letter D did appear down at the bottom to indicate that it was pressed, but it's actually waiting. It's waiting for a motion. So D stands for delete, but delete what? Well, if I type W, it's going to delete the entire next word. Delete word, right? If I type D followed by an E, it'll go up to the end. So deleting W is delete everything up to the beginning of the next word. Deleting followed by E is delete and leave the cursor at the end of the word. A subtle difference perhaps, but a difference nonetheless. And I would like to introduce a new motion actually, one that we haven't talked about yet. If I type D followed by the $sign, so be careful, it looks like it deleted the whole line, and it did, but it's $sign does not mean the whole line. $sign actually means everything from where I'm at until the end of the line. So $sign is until the end of the line. That's the motion. Until the end of the current line. So D $sign is going to delete everything from where the cursor is all the way up to the end of that line. And then just to make things even more interesting still, we have counts that we can use to modify these commands as well. So if I say 2W, notice that the cursor is jumping ahead 2 words at a time. Or if I say 10W, right, the cursor, where did it go? It jumped ahead 10 words, right? If I want to go backwards, we can do that with the B command. So if I say 10B, I'm going to say move the cursor backwards 10 words. But we can combine all of those together with an operator. So if I say D 2 W, that says delete the next 2 words. So if I have my cursor here on the word very in all caps, right here, and I say D3W, it's going to delete the next 3 words after my current cursor. Or if I want to go backwards, I can say D2B, and it'll delete the 2 prior words, 2 words that just occurred just prior to the cursor. Which leads me actually to one of my all-time favorite Vim commands. I use this one all the time. Wherever your cursor is, if you just type DD by itself, that'll delete the entire line that you're currently on, the whole line. And that leads to, just holding down the D. If you hold down the D key, you just start deleting line after line after line. Or really, the more Vim-like way of doing this would be to say D10, D, and then bam, just deleted 10 lines, all in one go, right? Or you can hold down the D key. I'm definitely very guilty of just holding down the D key until the lines that I want to remove from the text are gone. That's also definitely a thing that I have done before. But yeah, there's lots of different ways you can interact with this, and probably good to know how you undo stuff, because you're inevitably going to make mistakes. Let's say I didn't want to delete all that stuff that I just did. The U command will undo. So now I'm hitting U and it's undeleting everything, right? One command at a time. So there we go. All the way back to already at oldest change. Yeah, it told me I'm all the way back to how the file was when I started. So Vim is remembering all the changes that I make, and the U key is just cycling us backwards until, undoing all of those commands until we get to where we're going. Any questions? We're about to do some more exercises, but I just want to check in and see if there's any questions before we do. Okay. You should hopefully know the drill by now. Go and grab the exercise 2 file from Canvas in the same way that you did the other ones for today. So go here and grab exercise 2 in whatever way has been working for you. I'll use wget this time just because that's what I'm familiar with. Go ahead and open up exercise 2 in Vim, and then I will put up the instructions for you here. Clear. All right. And there are the exercises. Just like last time, I'll give you 5-10 minutes. Talk to your neighbors, talk to a friend if you need to, or flag me down. If you get stuck, if you have a question, I'll be around. Let me know what help you need, okay? right, it looks like most people are close to done, or if not done already. I would like to work through these real quick though. Just to reiterate these concepts, I mean, that's the best way to learn, is to do them over and over and over again until they're burned into your brain. So first one, they want us to use the delete word command. Let me go ahead and open up the, oh, what happened here? That's weird. Let me open up the file. Here we go. They want us to use the delete word command to remove extra words. The words are all food related, so this is one where you don't actually need to enter the insert mode at all, I believe, right? In fact, I hope that you tried to force yourself to use the navigation commands, because if I use the W key, it's going to put me at the beginning of each of these words, and as soon as I get to one that I don't like, such as mustard, I can hit DW, and that's the delete word command that was mentioned in the exercise, to just go ahead and remove that word that we no longer want. And then we can continue by hitting the W key to progress until we get to another word that we don't want. We're going to remove that until the sentence is now complete. For the next one, I believe it wanted us to remove the echo at the end of the line. So if I navigate down to the end of this line here, what the question's really asking us is, can I delete everything from the cursor to the end of the line? And there's actually, I think, a couple of different ways you could do this. I think if you wanted to, you could just do $, which is sort of the official solution to that problem, I suppose. But if I undo that and I wanted to say, do something like D3W instead, oh, that didn't quite get me there. Okay, would it be 4W then? All right, it would have to be D5W, I guess, to get all of it out. So you could delete it by words instead, but as you notice, what Vim classifies as a word is maybe not exactly the same as what a human would classify as a word. So unless you're very familiar with that definition, a little clunkier to write it that way. Probably easier to just go ahead and use the $sign to say delete everything from the end onwards. For number 3, similar idea to number 1, except for this time it is easy to count the words. I can see that there's 3 words here, so this is definitely a case of using D3W and then follow with the W command to navigate to the next word, and then this looks like D3W again, another W. Now there's 2 words that need to be deleted, so D2W, and 1, 2, 3, 4 words this time, so D4W takes that chunk out. Another block of 2. There we go. And then last, it wanted you to remove the extra lines from here, from number 4, to make a poem. And I think that's how the poem is supposed to look by the time it's done. Again, the command that I used to remove the lines was the DD command. I just navigated to the lines I wanted to delete, hit DD. That is a Vim command that I use so much. I mean, if you learn nothing else from today, like, take that one very handy trick with you, because that is one that you can and will use all the time. Any questions before we move on and take a look at some more stuff that Vim can do for us? Any questions on these exercises? I think number 5 had you look at the undo command with the U key. I already did that a little bit, but hopefully you played around with that as well. All right, cool. We got about half hour left. I think that'll be perfect for one more round of Vim stuff and some exercises to kind of wrap up our Monday. Whoops. I do want to right quit. I'm going to open up Alice in Wonderland one more time here so that we can talk about our next things that Vim can do for us. And so actually, every time you delete something, it's a little bit misleading to say that we deleted it. It's actually more similar to what a Control X or a Command X would do. It's cutting it, but it does remember it. So the stuff that gets deleted has been saved. It's actually stored in something called a buffer, which is just a place where we store data. So for example, if I move my cursor to the line with the title of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, and I say DD, which removes that entire line, right? It did in fact delete that line, but it's remembered. It knows what that line is. So if I want to paste that line, if I want to put that line back in the text at some point, I'll move my cursor down here a little bit perhaps. I can, hit the P key and, oh look, there it is. I've now pasted it. So delete is a little bit misleading. It is in fact a deletion if you want it to be. If you never do anything with that data again, then yes, it's deleted, but you can paste it. And the nice thing about it is, I deleted that line once, but I can paste it as many times as I want, right? So I can use that P key over and over and over again to repaste that line in every situation where I might feel like it needs to be. So delete is also kind of doing a copy for you at the same time, kind of doing copy paste for you at the same time. Some other things that are useful to know. If you want to, for example, replace a letter. So I'm on the very first part of Lewis Carroll's name here. If I hit the R key, the R stands for replace. So you'll see the R is down there at the bottom. It's waiting for me to say what I want to replace this with, and I guess I'll change it to H? I don't know. It doesn't really... But it's another way of making edits to text without having to enter insert mode, right? So I can go into any of these and hit the R key, followed by whatever letter I want it to be. So, right? I know that doesn't mean anything, but I'm just trying to show you how the replace command works. It can be used for making very cool little edits. And then finally, let's say I want to change more than just a letter, right? Let's say I want to change, from here to the end. I want to keep the first three letters, C-A-R, but I want to change everything that comes after it. We can actually use the C command along with a motion. So the C command along with the $ in this case, notice what it did. It said I want to change everything after the cursor to the end of the line. So it just deleted the end of the line and put me in insert mode, and now I can type in, whatever I want to here, which I guess I'll just put his name back. But let's say I didn't want to change the whole line. Maybe I just want to change this, this word millennium. I could say CW, and notice that it just deleted everything from the cursor until the end of the word, since I used the W motion, the $ motion, and put me in insert mode. So now I've said I want to change everything from the cursor to the end of the word, and so it's letting me do that, as the case may be. In fact, you could even combine this. If I say C2W, notice that it deleted not just the word that I'm currently on, but the word after it as well. I want to change the next two words. So the C command is kind of like a delete combined with sticking you into insert mode so that you can make changes to specific sections of the text. And this is really, kind of like peak editing right here, right? Again, try and imagine yourself as a programmer now, changing things in code. These are very, very useful ways of going in and being very precise about where you want to cut things out. Of course, the alternative, which again, I want to be very clear, I'm guilty of doing. If I want to change two words, I can also just go into insert mode and, delete the two words that I want to change and then type new words in, right? That's also an option. I don't want to pretend like it's not. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you take the time to learn those commands, those motions, string them together, it is more efficient that way than less keystrokes, right? Less typing on the keyboard, which kind of reminds me of something else I wanted to show you. something that you might get into outside of class. People get so into this idea of Vim that there's something called Vim Golf, where they ask you to perform a task, and the purpose is to complete this task in as few keystrokes as possible. So yes, I could go into insert mode and delete that whole thing out, or I could just type 2DW, right? And that's going to be a lot less actual things that have to be typed. So this is a little game that people, programmers, have created to say, yeah, Vim can do all these cool things, but how can we do it in as little effort as possible? How can we do it in as little work as possible? And so yeah, just something for you to take a look at outside of class if you're interested in beefing up your Vim skills. Honestly, this is a great way to learn because it will show you people's solutions. I have to be honest with you, I don't understand all of the work. There's so much stuff that they can do. But that's how you learn, right? You see something you don't understand, and then you look it up. Learn about it. So if Vim is something that you're interested in grinding and getting better at, I would highly recommend this as a resource of interesting challenges and other things that you can take a look at. All right. There is one more set of exercises I'd like to have you all work on. Exercises 3. So just like before, go ahead and grab this one on your command line. I'll put the instructions up here in just a moment. There we go. So after you've downloaded the text file, exercise 3, I want you to use the delete command, but also the P, the put command, to reorder things. So don't just delete them, but reorder them. Then there's a few, or the second one has you use the replace command, that's the RP. And then 3 and 4 have you use the change command. So change word would be CW, $, would be the end of the line. Take a look at these. We'll go through them together in 5 to 10 minutes or so. let's go through these last few Vim exercises. The first one wanted you to use the delete line command and the put command, the P commands, to reorder these lines. So I think this is a great skill to know how to do, right? This is a classic poem where, you know, roses are red, violets are blue, that sort of thing. The first line is actually down here at the bottom, but if I come down here and I hit DD to remove it and then move the cursor back up to the top and hit P, oh, well, all right, almost made it. Let's try that again. There we go. And grab the second line, the violets are blue line, and put that after the roses are red line, and then move this line up. There we go. Notice how few keystrokes it took us to do what feels like kind of a significant chunk of work, right? Think about how you would have done that if you were in Eclipse or something. A lot of you might have used the mouse and copy-pasted the lines that way or something like that. Vim makes it very easy, quick and easy to do reorganizations like that. It's a great thing. For this one, you were asked to use the replace, the R key. So if I get to the first letter that doesn't match at the end of this word, I can hit R followed by the letter that I want it to be, and now I can replace these letters one at a time to fix all the typos that exist in this text. Whoops, I missed one. All right. For number 3, you were asked to use the change word operator. So in order to use the change word operator, navigate to the beginning of the word that you're interested in, and then type CW. Notice it deletes the entire word, and now I am able to type in, you know, whatever I want that word to be. If I hit the escape key again in between, I can go back to normal mode and then continue hitting the W key to progress one word at a time until I hit another word that needs to be changed. So I would say CW again, type out the change that I want, hit escape to exit, and then go, you know, to the next word using the W key, and just repeat this process. Feels different, I know. Feels very strange. Notice that I don't have to take my hands off the keyboard at all, right? Don't have to use the mouse. So once you get used to doing things this way, it is a very, very quick and efficient way of manipulating text. And then finally, for this last one, wanted you to replace the entire end of this line here. So starting from this point on, we will use C followed by $sign to delete everything from there to the end of the line and replace it with the appropriate text. I do have a few more things I want to chat with you about because we do have still about 15 minutes left, but anybody have any questions on these exercises before I move on to the next thing? Okay, so before I move on to the next thing, just kind of want to take a minute to look ahead on the calendar. Again, remind everybody that the homework assignment is due on Wednesday, but also just want to point out that on Wednesday we're going to be doing one of my all-time favorite topics in this class, which is bash scripting. I have a lot of fun with this class, so I really hope you come. We're going to talk about the next homework assignment number 2 in class on Wednesday as well. So Wednesday is a very important day, in my opinion, for you all to come. And we're going to get more practice with Vim because I'm going to be using Vim for all of the exercises in class on Wednesday. So definitely we'll get more practice using Vim. And we're going to learn a cool new technique on Wednesday as well. So that's my plug to try and encourage you to come back to class. But for now, let's wrap up by showing you a few other little convenient things. These are things that I use perhaps a little less often, some of them, but are still good to know when using Vim. One of them actually I was struggling with a little bit earlier today. Whoops, let me open that Alice in Wonderland text again if I can find it. There it is. All right.
So earlier today I was like, why did it start me at the bottom of the file? I wish I was at the top of the file. If you hit GG, good game, then it takes you all the way to the top of the file. GG takes you all the way to the top of the file. That's interesting. If you hit capital G, it takes you all the way to the bottom of the file. So that's an interesting way of navigating around. If you hit the letter G followed by, whoops, how do you do that? I'm sorry, if you hit the pound key or the hashtag key, whatever you want to call it, and then you type in a number. So I typed hashtag followed by 123, and that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Uh-oh, now I screwed things up. Well, let me Google something. Vim jump to line. Or the line number and capital G. That's what I thought. Why didn't that work? Why didn't I try that before? 1, 2, 3, capital G. Yeah, there we go. So type the name, the number, the line number that you wish to go to, followed by a capital G, and it will jump to that line. So that's a very useful way of navigating around, especially very large files. This is a pretty large file. There's thousands of lines, right? So scrolling all the way from the top to the bottom using the arrow keys would take a chunk of time to do. But if you want, you can jump to the top with GG or the bottom with G or capital G, or type in whatever line you want to go to. Whoops, and it'll take you there. Let's say you want to search for something. So I know for a fact that Alice in Wonderland talks about rabbits at some point in time, right? That's kind of one of the main plot points. So if I want to search for the part that talks about rabbits, I'm going to type a slash, and then I can type the word rabbit. And you'll notice that as I'm typing, it's going to look for that word and show me where it is. So we can actually search using Vim, and I know that the word rabbit probably appears more than once in this file. So how do I get it to show me the next one? Well, if I hit the N key afterwards, it'll take me to every word every time that word appears. So N for next, and it tells me that it hit the bottom, starting over again at the top. So it actually doesn't appear in the text as much as I would have actually thought, but is in the text. And if you want to go backwards, you can do capital N, and it'll move you up in the file instead of down in the file. This is something that most people are probably used to doing in their text editor. It's just good to know that Vim is capable of doing that as well. And then one of the other, so I'll leave you with something that is extremely useful, but also sort of opens a whole different path in terms of what we can do with Vim and how it can be used, and one that I'm probably not going to spend a whole lot of time talking about in this class. But I want you to consider for a second that if I want to, I can run commands in Vim. So I'm going to hit colon followed by ls. Well, we know what ls is, right? That's a bash command, and if I say colon ls, it's going to say, oh, look, there is a file called Alice. It actually showed me the result of ls down here, right? There's a file called alice.txt. Or if I wanted to do, cd ... right? It'll actually run that command for me and show me where I end up. So now I'm in a different folder. So you can actually run commands down here. So if I want to cd into this folder, right now I'm in this folder. It's showing me where I'm at. You can actually run commands from within Vim. They're kind of trying to make it so that you never have to leave, right? So you're like, oh, I needed that thing from this other file. Well, you can actually navigate to that other file from within Vim. You don't actually have to leave Vim at all. Don't have to quit Vim at all. You can navigate there from here, and then use the cat command if you want to. :cat, I don't know. Oops. Well, that file didn't exist, so perhaps not the best example. But the case still remains that it's running these commands, and you can actually take these commands and do a whole heck of a lot more with them, such as importing the output of those commands into Vim, chaining commands together, much like we talked about the other day. The possibilities are really endless. Vim has tabs, so you can actually open Vim in tabbed mode and have multiple files open up at once. That's another interesting thing to know how to do. And if you're getting a bit overwhelmed by everything, then it's definitely a good time to let you know that if you type :help, there is actually a manual, a help file that's provided with Vim. There's also plenty of resources online. Like I said, this is one of the oldest and most popular text editors that still exists. So tons and tons of information about it out there. That's one of the reasons why I like to talk about it, is because it's so well known, because it's so popular, because there's so much information out there. But a lot of the stuff that we talked about today, right? So there's the stuff about moving around. Here's a lot of the commands that we've already talked about, as well as some that we haven't. So tons of information available. Wow, lots and lots of information available about using. These are all different things that Vim can do. So yeah, literally just scratched the surface, and that's okay. I'll be honest with you. Even though I'm well aware that Vim can do everything, it's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. I used to do very basic little things, and that's okay. I think that's a reasonable place to expect you all to get to as well. That's going to do it for today, though. So I'll stick around for the last few minutes if you have any questions about homework assignments. Otherwise, yeah, first assignment's due on Wednesday, and we'll take a look at the next homework assignments in class on Wednesday. So I'll see you then. Have a good week, everyone.